President Trump's legacy. And so fascinating, as Ali said, to watch these Republicans, many of them on Capitol Hill, twist themselves in knots to look the other way.
The Wall Street Journal has been very interesting over the last few days because it's been a real reminder that President Trump campaigned to run the country, and now he is running the country, and the problems are his problems. And I've been struck by how many editorials there have been. There's another one in there today. Trump gives TikTok an illegal amnesty. The Journal's really pushing back, and they've pushed back against several of the things that President Trump has done. They've called out the nominee for Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, saying we didn't learn anything in the nomination hearings. We just have to hope that he's the right guy for the job, but not sounding at all convinced that he was. And so you've got that kind of, I guess you could put the Journal as the kind of voice of the sort of Mitt Romney wing of the Republican Party to some extent, still out there saying, okay, you won this. Now all of these problems are yours. You have to deal with all of these things. I think one of the most interesting things that was said by those Republican senators actually was Senator Kramer, who said, look, it was done on day one and it's behind us now. And you wonder to some extent whether President Trump, knowing that this would be kind of controversial with members of the Senate, but it was something that the base wanted, you get it done early and then you can move on from it. And I think that's the hope for the White House, is that this can now, there'll be a lot of outcry about this in these first 48 hours or so, and then they can get on to other things that the Republicans actually want to talk about.
So let's bring in NBC News justice and intelligence correspondent Ken Dilanian. Ken, NBC News spoke to a line prosecutor who worked on the January 6th cases. What was his reaction to these pardons?
He was appalled, Mika. Good morning. His name is Jason Manning, and he's one of many career prosecutors who devoted years to prosecuting, investigating, prosecuting these January 6th attackers. This was the biggest criminal investigation in the history of the Justice Department. Nearly every FBI field office and every U.S. Attorney's Office was involved, even though it took place mostly in the D.C. U.S. Attorney's Office in Washington, D.C. And this prosecutor really reflected on what this set of pardons meant to the victims that he knows very well in many cases.
Oh, Trump doesn't care about the victims.
Who were assaulted.
He's the one who victimizes everybody.
Everyone who's trying to judge these pardons, think how they think about them, needs to put themselves in the shoes of the Capitol Police officers, the Metropolitan Police officers who were victims that day. Think about what it was like for those people.
They don't care. They're not patriots,
Officers
honey.
like Officer Michael Fanone, who was dragged into a mob and tased in the neck. Or Officer Dan Hodges, who was squeezed between a door and had to scream for his life. Officer Brian Sicknick, who was assaulted with pepper spray, lost his life of a heart attack. Have to think about what it means for those officers and their loved ones to receive this message that those assaults don't
care,
matter.
honey. Donald Trump doesn't
Attacking
care.
police officers like
Billionaires
that
don't
is
care.
okay. So for me, that's what I'm thinking about when those pardons are issued. I don't think that's okay, and so I find the pardons appalling.